Sorry. So, good morning and welcome to Women's Trust. This is part of a self-development webinar series. Today we're going to be looking at depression and just kind of looking at various types of depression and just looking at how it may impact your life, your family's life, and just looking at really practical ways of you know, how to cope and live with depression. It's probably more common than you all think. So I'm just going to move on to the next slide. So I've more or less just kind of recapped there and said, yes, just understanding different types of depressions and how we can cope with them. As per usual, just some like housekeeping issues. So I think we'll have a small comfort break. And I don't know whether you've all got things to kind of do after 1 o'clock. As I said, I may have to make up a little bit of time, so I'll do the best I can to cover everything. I will be sending out handouts for you after this session, so you don't have to take notes. It's up to you. You can, but we will be sending you out handouts. So as I said, yeah, we'll have a comfort break. Probably, I would say now, probably about just after 12 or maybe 12:15 or so, or probably at 12 o'clock. So you're all on mute, and hopefully if you can put your phones on silent or on, you know, if you need to take a call, then obviously, you know, go off and do it. But if we can all put our phones on silent. You've obviously got your videos on and you know how to use the chat. You know more about Zoom than I do. And just to kind of remind you all of this is a confidential space for you. So be assured of that, despite me sharing my password. But it is a confidential space for you. As I said, I can't see you, you can't see me. So I'm just going to move on to the next slide. So I guess the question is, what is depression? And I imagine that for many of us, we maybe have experienced it in some shape or form. Okay, you can see me. Is that okay that you can see me? Yeah, I think let me just turn off my camera then. And then you don't need to see me, I guess. Yeah, okay. Hopefully you can't see me now. Okay, so as I said, depression is, as it says on the slide here, it is recognised mental health around the world. And yeah, so it is very common. I mean, I'm not sure of these stats, but we believe that is 1 in 10 of us will experience some form of, you know, depression, some form of mental illness. And it can kind of be something really kind of severe or very, just very mild. So anybody can experience depression, as it says, and big thing to note here, that it is treatable. So just a quick thing of what it isn't, what depression isn't. It's not something, you know, people say, oh, you can just snap out of it, or that you can be considered that it's a failing in you or a sign of weakness. It's neither of those things. And it's something that, yes, we'll all experience. And just, you know, just remembering that it's not something that lasts forever. And as it says 1 episode, that's not true at all. So we're going to look at some of the types of depression. I haven't done a huge list. I mean, we won't get into, because it's a bit mind-boggling if we start referring to, you know, all of the forms of depression. But here are some of the most common types of depression. And clinical depression, I guess it's first because it's kind of one of the more severe forms of depression or major depression. But as with all, I just want to reiterate, as with all types of depression, the sooner you seek help and reach out to somebody, then the quicker you can get the treatment that you need. So depressive episodes, so you may find that, yeah, from time to time that you, they'll just be, maybe it could be during a particular time, maybe it's a reminder. I mean, I think it's also to be reminded that, you know, there's no real cause of what causes depression, obviously, for a lot of you women who've experienced any form of abuse. that may well contribute, but there's no exact science to say yes, that is. But you may have episode when we talk about it's something, you know, you may be feeling down for a particular day, or I mean, it's more for over a couple of weeks. So that's what they just term as a depressive episode, or it could be recurrent. So yes, as I say, you may find that, you know, at the same time every year, or it could be the anniversary of somebody, a loved one's death. There's no, as I said, there's no real reason, but I think what we're going to come to today is that you understand what the symptoms are. So it's less about what the causes are for you, but just, yeah, knowing that you can what the symptoms are and that you can recognize them yourself. So severe depression, so that will be with psychotic symptoms, and in those cases that you may require hospital treatment if it's severe depression. So different types, and for those of you that are mothers, then this next slide of just the first heading of saying postnatal depression is something that might be familiar, something that is common in 1 in 10 women after giving, they say within year of giving birth. But as I said, once again, with the right support, which do include, it can include self-help strategies, counselling, or psychotherapy, which is more long-term. And, you know, chances are, you know, you'll make a full recovery. The seasonally affected disorder, well, some of you might experience that as well. That's very much to do with the time of year. So normally when the weather isn't, when it's becoming, when it's winter, that's when people are affected by seasonally affected disorder. I mean, it's basically, it will be at the same time of year. I mean, some people find that light, because it is the lack of light, sunlight, which means that your brain produces more of a hormone called melatonin, which makes you sleepy. So it's kind of important during these winter times. I mean, and it's probably, I say winter after autumn, but opening your blinds and curtains as soon as you get up to just let some sunlight into your home. And I guess important for you to just get outdoors and be with nature as much as possible. But also, I would say with all of these different types of depression, there is very much a common denominator, which is that you get a good night's sleep. Obviously sunlight is, but you get a good night's sleep, you know, and undisturbed sleep as well. And that can help kind of feeling more tired in the winter time. But then the other side of that is that sometimes you can get too much sleep, and then that can kind of make you feel sluggish throughout the day. So it's actually, let's say, you don't need, it's funny, isn't it? Because we may make an assumption that we need more sleep in the winter than in summer, but actually we don't. It's just, you know, an equal amount, which is if you can get a good 8 hours of sleep per night, then, and, you know, I think also the other thing is to have a pattern. So trying to go to bed at the same time. Now, I know that that's probably quite difficult for some of us during lockdown, because things might be all over the place. But the idea is if you can be consistent, is, as I say, going to bed at the same time. So just going to move on to, I think I sort of said this briefly, what causes depression. And some people think, oh, is it genetic? And that may well be the case in some families. Some family members may be more prone to a mental health condition than others. And your background, you know, definitely I know that within, you know, the Black and African community, you know, that there is a high proportion of, you know, mental illness, and that can't be discounted. So, yeah, that's also kind of considered, and your background, and there's all, as I said, in the current situation may cause depression as well. I know that people during lockdown, if you think of, you know, older generation, people in care homes, I mean, that is obviously must be excruciating, not only for the elderly people in a care home or their family, that can be very difficult. So as I said before, there's no simple cause really of depression, but obviously we kind of know that if you were suffering from postnatal depression, that you could, you know, that your hormones, you could attribute it to that. But as I said, that certainly for women, if you've been in an abusive relationship, there could be several factors that contribute to, you know, why you're feeling depressed. But as I said, it's more important to understand and recognize what the symptoms are for you. Okay, so we're going to just move on. So this, as I said, it may be brought on by different situations, and certainly if you're ending a relationship or thinking about ending a relationship, that must, you know, as well as being, you know, cause you to be quite down and quite depressed. Or if you are still in that relationship, then this can also just, you know, be a constant cause of anxiety for you, and feeling down, or just feeling really very sad, and just kind of the emptiness of it all. I think certainly I kind of spoke about clinical depression, and I mean, this will be in your handouts, but as I said, I think it's important to focus on the clinical depression, because I mentioned earlier that this is the most severe, but it is a form of depression. But the signs and symptoms that we look for, and it's common in other kind of depression, is that you're feeling feelings of sadness, or feeling very tearful, and just an emptiness and a sort of hopelessness of life. You may find that you have angry outbursts, or feel really irritable, or feeling very frustrated. And this can sometimes be over really even the smallest of matters, that you kind of lose it. So that's I've kind of come back to, it's important to maybe understand some of the symptoms, and so you can recognize when you might be feeling depressed. And also kind of a loss of interest in or pleasure in most the normal activities that you would otherwise enjoy. So some of the, as I said, some of the things that you'll experience, what shows on the slide, is struggles with your children. You know, if you're feeling down and depressed, then, you know, managing everyday life with your children is going to be hard. The other kind of, as I said, it's linked in with women who experience, you know, any form of domestic violence, is that the financial situation, you might be staying in the relationship because of the finances, or the worry is, and the depressed side is, that actually, if on my own, that might have, you know, severe financial implications on me. And, you know, that's kind of quite key, because on the one hand, you know, you may want to leave a situation, but you may have to stay until, you know, you feel that you're able to, both financially and just emotionally ready to do that. And also, you know, depression is, you know, linked to your self-confidence. I mean, I think we could say that there is a link to, you know, the abuse of being, if you're being abused, it's also about being oppressed as well. So I think that there could be a link between the two, of being, you know, being oppressed. So symptoms, so that's covered some already, symptoms of depression. Hopefully you can see some more of those: a low mood and feeling very sad, irritable or angry, having less energy to do things. And this, as I said, this, you might be depressed, and you might find that it does affect your sleep. And I think that they are the key signs. If you're not getting 8 hours, then that will affect your energy levels throughout the day. And loss of concentration, I think that's the one thing that just being able to concentrate on maybe doing your job, or, as I said, with your children, and just everyday things that you would normally, you know, just find really straightforward. Yeah, becoming more tired is something. You're more tired easily, and I know that can sometimes be hard. That you know, when you're depressed, you know it's a sign. Because lots of people say, "Oh, I felt so tired," and this could be that maybe you're not working, and maybe, you know, if you could be at home, but you feel absolutely exhausted all the time. So that is an indicator that you could be suffering with a doubt, or a bout of depression. So the impact of depression, as I said, this can affect all relationships. It could affect your work. And I know more and more employers are doing more to look at everybody's mental health, and so that should be something, if you work, that your employer should be really supporting you if you are suffering from depression. And I guess the other thing of the impact of depression, I'm just going to go through some of the things here, because it can make you feel less pressure for some things, make you feel more agitated, loss in interest in sex, find your thoughts and movements you very slowed down. And once again, it doesn't have to be alarming, but I mean, having thoughts of self-harm or suicide. And I think that's when I said the earlier you can seek help for, if you display any of these symptoms, is to kind of contact or reach out to your GP. I know there are other organisations, but I would say first and foremost to kind of go and have a chat with your GP. And I know that's very difficult, because depending on where you live, it just seems to be a case of potluck, I would say, in the UK, that some people can talk about having, very good relationship with their doctors, who will listen to them and understand them. And I would just encourage, you all as women to just kind of, empower yourself. So if you feel that you've got a GP that isn't supporting you, then I would say, think about moving and finding a GP, asking for another doctor who you feel that, is going to support you through any episodes that you may have. So some of the, it's linked to your thoughts and feelings, and quite a lot here. This is just some of the things that you may experience if you're suffering from depression. And I think we really are talking about anything that you're experiencing for longer than 2 weeks. I won't read out all of them because you can see them here. I would just highlight the one more, well, certainly your aches and pains. So depression, once again, can be, you can store, in another session that hopefully the webinar that will look at greater detail about stress and anxiety. But, if you're feeling depressed, you can feel aches and pains in your body. And, one of the things about being social, if you're feeling depressed, that's the last thing that you want to do, is keep in contact with your friends and family. And I also recognise that it might be also something that, it's very difficult to admit. Sometimes, it's probably difficult to admit to yourself that you're experiencing difficulty. And if you find that hard to acknowledge that with yourself, then it's probably going to be even harder for you to share that with your friends and families. But hopefully that you have good friends, or a friend that you were able to reach out to and just say, look, I'm not feeling so good. Sometimes it is good to kind of let your friends know maybe what they could do to help you. I know sometimes friendships can be really complicated. You may have friends who want to tell you what to do and will tell you, oh, just snap out of it. But I think sometimes if you're able to communicate effectively with your friends, to let them know, this is what, if you could do this for me, just listen. I just want to vent. Can you just check up on me? Drop me a text, give me a ring. It's more about, I guess it's, if you're able to, and I know it's probably a difficult time, but if you're able to just communicate to your friends and your family what they can do to help you. And as I said, the suicidal thoughts, they may come. Certainly if you were experiencing suicidal thoughts, somewhere like the Samaritans, who have been around for, I don't even know how long, but they have always been, that emergency service for people to just listen when people do have those suicidal thoughts. So it's just remembering that actually what you're going through, there is a lot of help out there for you. And it's just knowing where to go to get that help and the support that you might need. The last one, I'm sorry, it's written over, I'll read it out. It's the use of substances. For some people, they may find, drugs or alcohol is a way to kind of deal with your depressive thoughts or feelings. I mean, it will temporarily, but you will still be left with some of the feelings after you've kind of maybe had a few drinks or smoked something or what have you. So it's more, that's why we kind of need to come back to, how do I deal with these feelings of emptiness? What can I do to kind of help myself? Okay, so kind of broken down into a couple of areas here, which is the physical problems. And as I said, you may find sleeping problems. Once again, if you stick to a routine of going to bed at the same time, trying to get the same amount of hours sleep would be great. Some people use, have a ritual, have a routine of maybe a nice salt bath, and or with nice Epsom salts bubble bath, and then maybe you can maybe a drop of lavender on your pillow or a diffuser with lavender, just kind of anything that kind of that's to counteract those sleeping problems. And unexplained headaches is also and your link to your digestive system, very much your gut. And I imagine when you're feeling depressed, I think you'll probably go from maybe one extreme to the other. You might overeat if that's the thing that you do, or the other extreme to that is that you're not eating at all. But that's how the physical, how they manifest in our body. These are some of the things. So chronic fatigue, restless legs, or what have you. They are all could be because you're feeling depressed. Okay, so behavior changes. Oh, most definitely our behavior changes. And as I said, I just covered that before. Your appetite, yes, most definitely might change. You're more irritable. And you may find if you're experiencing depression, as I said, neglecting yourself. Some of the things that you would do ordinarily, you suddenly find that actually maybe getting out of bed is very difficult. Brushing your teeth, getting washed, getting dressed. These are some of the things that will be affected if you're experiencing, some of the severe forms of depression. As I said, we've covered the last 2 points before: problems concentrating and lack of sexual desire. So on the positive side, because we have to look at both sides of everything, it's not just one way, it's not all darkness. It's the lighter side of depression. We could see it as a gift because it gives you an opportunity to look at, as I say, to look at your spiritual life. And that really is about looking at what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your body, and also the spiritual aspects of your life. And maybe, as I say, maybe a bit more empathy towards other people. You may know of other people who've experienced depression before, and maybe you might have dismissed it. Certainly my understanding of mental health has come from direct experience within the family. So for me, I can empathize more in doing the work that I do, working with women who've been affected by abuse, but also, with mental health problems as well. So we can show more empathy towards other people. And just a greater depth of emotional experience. And that really, in a nutshell, just means that you can connect more with yourself. You can be able to, hopefully you'll be able to say how you're feeling. This is how I feel. You can name it. I feel sad, or I feel lonely, so that's what, I guess that's why I say it can be as a gift, because you can suddenly go from, I know what I need to do. I probably need to look after myself more because I'm feeling sad, because I'm feeling down. Maybe you do need to talk to a friend so that you can, they can lend support to you. So as I said, just a greater understanding. The more you understand what's going on internally, then you can then know what your needs are. So just other another extension to this of gifts of depression is that, yeah, it is an opportunity for truth to emerge, you know, and about yourself. You know, maybe you didn't realize aspects of yourself, but through understanding more about your emotions, yeah, the truths can emerge. And also, yeah, I was going to say, the awareness of putting pressure on ourselves. Certainly for those of you who are mothers, I mean, it's even harder if you've been in an abusive relationship and you're raising children, because you want to be seen as, I've got to do it all, I've got to look after children, I've got to protect them, I've got to protect their needs. And then that's why sometimes your needs can be put to the wayside or dismissed. I mean, and this is a cultural thing as well, about putting pressure on ourselves. You know, as women, yes, we are under a tremendous amount of pressure to be this perfect person, whether you're married or in a relationship, to, you know, for it to all be perfect at the same time, raising your children and going out to work. So as I said, this is an opportunity to get a better understanding of yourself and being able to say, I can do this, or this is what I need to do for me. So this is, and I think once you, as I said, once you start on this path, it's very hard to kind of go back. So getting help, as I said, I think in the first instance, you should really think about some of these options, which is, some of you may have had talking therapies. There is a whole range of different therapies, and I guess it's just kind of working out what's going to be right for you. I mean, certainly if you went through the NHS, you'd probably have access to IAPS, which is giving you access to the integrated services, just that more easier access. Now, I know for some people, and the last time that I know of is that there is still very long waiting lists to be referred to IAPS. And I think once again, as I referred to before, I think it really is a case of potluck of where you live, of how good these services are. Antidepressants, well, there is sometimes you may need to take antidepressants, and I know that for a lot of people there's always maybe some stigma around taking antidepressants. You don't want to get addicted to them. It's how they make people feeling numb. But sometimes the other side of that is that they can be exactly what you need for a short period of time, just to kind of lift your mood, and so that you can begin to sort of you know, return to normal. I mean, exercise is also a consideration. We'll come to that further on, but I think alternative therapies are also useful. Some people might want to have maybe acupuncture, homeopathy. There are so many different alternatives. I mean, talk therapy is the most common, but there are lots of other various therapies that you can consider, just to kind of help you get through that next stage. So, okay. So, as I said before, to visit your GP. So I know that some GP services do actually have a counselling service. I mean, I know that there's less now because of the IAPS, but I do believe that that you can still you know, check with your GPs to see whether they offer counselling. And just briefly, I mean, obviously some of you may have had counselling. I know that Women's Trust do offer counselling, but counselling would be, you know, it's more short-term help and support, in opposed to psychotherapy, which is more long-term, and certainly for, and unfortunately, that is not always readily available. I think more and more of the last few years, there's been more low-cost psychotherapy services that is kind of on a system of you kind of pay, you know, according to what you earn, and you'll make a contribution towards it. But I know that certainly there still are a couple of services out there that you can pay anything, maybe £10 and up. So they are out there. It would just be a case of searching for them. But we will we'll try and provide you with some resources. And I said it is different for where you live, because you may want to kind of stay local, and that's one thing. You ladies live across London, so yeah. So if we send you some resources, if it's not in your area, as I say, definitely we'll send some generic ones so that you'll be able to access or get access to help or support. Evaluation for medication, yeah, that's also if you are taking other medication, or you may well be still on, you know, antidepressants or what have you. It's always good to kind of, you know, have an evaluation with your doctor to find out where you're at. Does it affect other drugs that you're on? And just have a review of yeah, what you're currently taking. So as I said, homeopathy, that's just like an alternative. And I know that is, I mean, is, you know, becoming more and more quite common. There's more homeopathy clinics. So yeah, if that's, I mean, some people are into that, and some people aren't. As I said, it's more about finding out that what is right for you. So IAPS, so that's just the, it's for, I mean, I think it's for children as well, but I'm referring to this for adults, which is in the long version of it, it's Improving Access to Psychological Therapies program. And I think that was launched, let's see, in, yeah, about 2008. And it's just really how, I mean, the treatment of adults who experience depression as well as any anxiety orders. So they are also, you can, I think you can get a referral through your GP for IAPS. So that's also another consideration. So it comes back down to, I guess, when we look at, actually, I'm just going to come back to just some of the alternative therapies, because they might be useful, because I know some people may not necessarily want to subscribe to taking antidepressants, although, as I said before, sometimes it may be necessary for you, even if it's in the short run. But if we were talking about there's nothing stopping you from, you know, also taking antidepressants as well as looking at alternative therapies. So, I mean, as I said, that could be homeopathy, which is a system of, it's complementary medicine. There's been lots of studies, I mean, but it's not kind of, you know, it's not available on the NHS. So it's a system of complementary medicines in which elements that you're being treated by, it's kind of, they give you minute doses of natural substances. So that it would basically, in large amounts, would produce the symptoms. But it's worth, I mean, I was going to say, it's always good to consider, you know, alternative therapies in the same way. Acupuncture, if any of you have experienced it before, it's actually when they put fine needles, they're inserted to the skin at specific points that are thought to be, you know, your lines of energy. I mean, because we're all full of energy. So the idea of the acupuncture, that it can go straight to where you may be experiencing, you know, a problem. So that's two of the alternative therapies. As I said, there are lots more. I mean, exercise, which we will, which I think is, one second. Yeah, we'll come to exercise. So let's go and look at your diet. Just actually by a show of hands, I'm just interested to know, I was hoping to do a poll, but I mean, you guys are on the call and I can ask you, how many of you would you have say, if you're by a show of hands, who've experienced, or you can pop it in the chat, if you've experienced depression or some form of depression before? It's anonymous to me, so I'm not going to be calling anybody's names out, but I would just be interested to know, by way of numbers, how many of you have experienced a form of depression before. Okay. All right. That's interesting to know. So this could be, I mean, by all, okay. Just to let you know, sorry if I haven't put the setting on that you just send it to me rather than sending it to everybody, because you may not want to let everybody know. But I think that maybe should have something that I should have implemented for you to, so you don't have that, you don't chat to send it to everybody. Anyway, that's the least of our worries right now. So coming on to looking after ourselves, and how you can do that. So diet is very important. But as I said, if you are experienced and you're feeling down and feeling depressed, then, you know, eating regularly might be really tough for you. You know, you might find it really, really very hard. Once again, of course, I mean, having a balanced diet is always recommended, but you know, at times when you're feeling really very low. So what we're saying is, if you can constantly look at your diet, that you are getting a health, you know, eating healthily, you know, and that means a fresh cooking, fresh food, in opposed to processed food. It says here, reducing, you know, sugar and fats, amount of caffeine you take, because that's the stimulant, as is alcohol. And as I say, that some people may have got into habit of using, you know, the caffeine or the alcohol to kind of get yourself through, because it kind of lifts you. I mean, and it gives you a false sense of, oh, I'm doing okay because I'm feeling a little bit better. But actually, it's the caffeine, it's the alcohol that is making you feel good. Once that dies off, the alcohol and caffeine, then that low mood might return. So it's just being aware of doing, you know, what you're putting into your body, and what the likely effects are. Okay. Exercise. Once again, that's something that's different for everybody. And I always stress this, I can't stress it enough, that there are so many different things that you can do regarding exercise. You know, don't feel that you have to be doing the latest thing, because some people quite like doing Pilates or yoga. I mean, I would say that it's finding something that the effects that you're looking for is how it makes you feel. Now, whilst some people might like Zumba, I mean, and it's very fast paced, or if you do, I don't know, there's the cycling things, you can tell I'm not a gym person, but the point is that there's all of those things. It's how it's making you feel. So being in nature, you know, we've spoken about the light in, you know, in the winter, you know, trying to get as much sunlight in. Just being with nature will already calm you. You know, if you look at the trees and just being able to get out into open space, to really appreciate that, can kind of, so you can be at one with the nature, because it, you know, hopefully it will lift your mood. As I said, going to the gym is something. Gym's not for everybody, but the gym may, you know, provide a sanction for individual people. So the main thing is that you do what you feel is right for you. I think certainly during lockdown, you know, there's been lots of classes that you can now do online, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home. And there are lots of great resources to find. You know, YouTube is a great resource, and I seem to think at the beginning of lockdown, I don't know whether he still is, maybe he is, that I think it's Joe Wicks or something was doing these exercise classes or what have you. So yeah, so it's about you working out what's right for you and where you do it. So let's just move on to, so this makes up you. I mean, I always kind of remind people of that your mental health is all of the things that we've covered so far, which is your diet and exercise. And we've spoken about getting a good night's sleep. All those three things contribute to your mental health. So if you're finding that you're not sleeping, and you're not eating, and you're not getting any exercise, you know, can you imagine what your body's experiencing? Being starved, it's not getting any nutrition, it's not getting any exercise. So it's really important that you kind of come back to, let me look at my mental well-being. What is it that I need to do? So mindfulness is, I don't know whether anyone has, you know, ever done any mindfulness. I think, I'm pretty sure it's kind of, I guess it's a state of just being conscious. I guess that's the best way, or aware of something. So it's bringing consciousness, and more often it's in the here and now. And I mean, I think this is a good exercise that you can all do this. If anyone has been to one of my workshops before, that, and I think this particular one that we spoke about, and maybe not for Women's Trust, but anyway, a good exercise to do for mindfulness is to, this evening when you are brushing your teeth, try brushing your teeth with using your other hand. So not your dominant hand, use it with your other hand. If you're ambidextrous, then well, okay, it's going to be hard. But anyway, whatever hand that you would normally brush your teeth with, use the opposite hand. And it's just interesting to notice the difference when you use your other hand. You will have an awareness that you didn't have before. And that is almost like, because we also take that for granted, we're brushing our teeth when we're doing, but you try it with the other hand, and that will just require you to just really be in the moment, be present, because you might find that actually it's a bit awkward to get to those back teeth because you're not used to using the less dominant hand. But that's a good exercise. I mean, but there are various ways of mindfulness. You can do mindfulness walks, which would mean that you, if you take just if you were popping to the shop, so you're walking along your road, that you'd be able to notice the trees, you know, look at how many trees are in your area, notice the leaves, and that's what mindfulness is, just being conscious of what is happening now. We can also use our breath in mindfulness, and that's when we're doing yoga or Pilates, they often refer to using your breath, breathing in and breathing out, and that's the only thought that you have. And this shows how difficult it is for us to really be mindful and be in the moment, because we spend a lot of time thinking about the next thing we're going to do. You know, what am I going to do after 1 o'clock when this is finished, what I'm going to be doing. In actual fact, just being mindful means actually I'm present now, and I'm just here now. I'm not even thinking about what's going to go on in the next hour or in 2 hours time. I'm just being very, very present now. So that takes practice. It really does. Meditation, once again, you can join meditation groups, but that is very much about being into a conscious state. And you can often use meditation. Some people may chant, some people may pray. It's all about quieting the mind. So it's not that the thoughts, you may get thoughts in your head, like as I said, what am I doing in the next hour? But it's allowing that thought to come, and as it comes, just allow it to go, and then allow yourself to become present in the moment again. Your mental health being well, spending time with others. Someone mentioned, you know, their friend, you know, not feeling too good, and you know, maybe that's what you could reach out and say, look, I know you haven't been feeling down or what have you, you know, this is what, you know, maybe you could invite them round or meet them up in the park and say, look, you know, come and have something to eat, let's have a pic, let's just be with each other. So spending time with others is also a good tonic for anyone. So yeah, definitely recommend that. And of course, laughter is very important. So that's where you can, you know, pick out your favorite films through, you know, Netflix or on Prime or whatever, any of the other TV stations or channels that you want to watch, and just allow yourself to have a laugh. Yeah, to just enjoy and laugh, because I mean that will lift your spirits no end. So yeah, highly recommended. More laughter. So I'm just thinking if there are if anybody has any questions that they would like me to go over, or to recap over anything. So as I said, if you find that you do need to speak to somebody, in the first instance, you would contact your GP. And as I said, just to initially to just talk about them, to share some, you know, just some of how you're feeling. And as I said, more often than not, the help is there to support you. There will be people who willingly help you and support you. But some of the self-care ideas, now maybe you guys can kind of, you're doing these anyway, but this should form part of looking after yourself, just some self-care ideas, which is maybe listening to a song that you really speaks to you a lot and you enjoy listening into it. It may lift your spirits. Talking to a friend, or you may have a pet, because also having pets or looking after, even if you've got a pot plant and you have to water a plant, it's something that you can do and see it grow is the other thing as well. So comfort food, you know, that's also can be, you know, looking after yourself, something that you really enjoy, and hopefully it's something healthy that you enjoy, but if it's not, then indulge anyway. Things like just kind of doing repetitive things that can kind of, when we talk about coming to the here and now, so folding laundry, doing things that are repetitious, just because if you're being productive in that way, it does equal that chances are you're going to be calm. So, and that's the optimum really. We want to be calm, we want to be stress-free, without any anxiety. So writing, I would suggest that, you know, if you're feeling, you know, down, maybe you can, you know, keep a journal, write about how you're feeling. Even if you're feeling really angry or feeling really sad, if you're able to write something down, or maybe draw how you're feeling. I know certainly that one of the therapies I didn't include, now obviously Women's Trust do workshops, but there's also group therapy that you can attend. And some people do like, you know, group therapy. You know, doesn't work for everybody, but some people, so you could join a group, and a group by and large will reflect your family, but as I say, it's something, if it's, you know, you maybe want to try it to see how it is, whether it works for you or not. Just kind of you know, blowing bubbles, as I said, just kind of got very good mindfulness, colouring books, just anything, as I say, that calms your mind. Making your nice fresh bed sheets, you know, just kind of having things that you can kind of just relax into and really enjoy. As I said, maybe a ritual in the evening before you go to bed is maybe, as I said, a herbal drink or some cocoa and maybe some marshmallows. I mean, you're not going to be doing this every day, but just things that you can do, that you're looking after your own needs, and they make you feel good as well. Memes, I mean, funny memes, I mean, I'm not really into memes, but I'm sure people are, so just look them up and have a laugh. I mean, that's what it said, have a bit of a laugh about it. And as I said, you know, maybe having a shower, as I said, having a nice salt bath or a bubble bath, reading a book. Maybe you want to take up a new hobby of knitting or doing something like that. But ultimately, as I said, it's about looking after your body. And we've spoken about the physical side of that. So that is the walking, going to the gym, and sleeping earlier. The mental side of it, of course, this is what we're referring to, mindful meditation, just relaxing, chilling out to music. If you're able to take a short break, and just, as I said, just have some fun. I think the last one among that is your soul. And this is, as we say, on a spiritual level, which is meditation, which will allow you to just kind of connect more to yourself, to your body, and what's kind of going on. So just self-reflecting. I think if you're able, the more you're able to self-reflect, you can understand what's kind of going on with you. And just ensuring that you have nourishing people around you. and just supportive people, because I think that that's also another thing, is that you want to make sure that you have people that you can call on, should you need them. And as I said, at the severe form, so I think for a lot of us, a couple of you have sort of said that you have experienced depression before, and I would say that you know, that's, you know, mild, or it can be quite severe, as I said, after having a child. And there's also a term, you know, the baby blues, I think it's referred to, when you have postnatal depression, and they're kind of temporary. But often what may happen is that you may well have experienced postnatal depression, but it wasn't diagnosed. And I think sometimes that, you know, people can kind of slip through the cracks of just kind of coping for a long time with being depressed, and just kind of just managing, just kind of struggling through, and just that becomes the norm. And I think sometimes, you know, we're saying about causes, but, you know, sometimes, you know, depression could come on, or an episode could come on, you know, you may lose your job. As we said, you may be leaving a relationship, or making that transition to leave the relationship. That can all contribute to, you know, feeling down or feeling depressed. So it's good to kind of know you, is what I'm saying. But the better you know you, then the better it will be all around. As I said, I come back to the thing about people saying, "Oh, pull yourself together," but because I think it's something that, as I said, that women suffer from anyway. I think we suffer sort of in silence of being depressed, and I think that there is shame around that being depressed, or even admitting it. So it's just kind of, and maybe that's why people don't want to acknowledge it within themselves, because there is stigma. People still said, oh, you know, if people say, oh, you know, if you're going to a counsellor or going to a therapist, they'll say, oh, you must be mad, or what's wrong with you? And actually, fact, you know, it's very healthy to go in a space, a non-judgmental space, where somebody will, you know, that space is your, not only confidential and a safe space for you to maybe talk about some of the things that you've been struggling with, that you've kind of kept locked away in your head. So I think that, as I said, it's more about recognizing what the symptoms are, and then at the earliest point being able to get the help and support that you need. I mean, you also, I was going to say, the negative aspects of what we kind of get, I guess, fed through our families, which are, you know, what you should do, or you shouldn't do that. Or I think, you know, sometimes our family can get in the way of, like, of our thoughts, but it's more, I said, it's about how can you accept yourself. So very much a place of, yeah, you accepting yourself for where you are in your life, and just, I mean, because once you accept that, then you'll find it a little bit easier. And I know that for some people, you may well be still in an abusive relationship, so that's why that self-acceptance. I think if you are still in a relationship that's abusive, then I think your working away is going to be a lot harder. So that's why looking after yourself is even more important, because maybe you can work things out, but maybe you won't. And having the strength, knowing that you are taking care of yourself, will stand you in good stead. So it is something that is going to be an ongoing thing, looking after yourself and being aware of what your mental health is. So as I said to, I mean, I sort of recap and say that it's just looking at how you cope with it. So when you're alone, how do you feel? And then how do you feel when you're with somebody else? Because it is important to kind of get a sense of like, when I'm alone, this is how I feel. And just coming up with ideas. So you might say, when I'm alone, you know, maybe I feel frightened, I feel scared. And then, but you might say, but when I'm with somebody, I feel I feel secure, and I feel safe. So it's going to be different for everybody, individually. But it's more about saying, well, how do I feel, and when I'm on my own. So that's one, as I say, coping with depression. It's just constantly asking yourself those two questions. How when I'm alone, this is what I'd like to do when I'm alone. And when I'm with somebody, these are things that I'd like to do. I guess it's just kind of sometimes there are patterns, and you might have feelings of feeling craziness or feeling confused, and your anger can be related to your depression. I think in see it on the slide, I think one of the previous slides I've made mention that you can sometimes just lose it over something really trivial, so anger can very much relate to depression. It's not always seen as that, but I think the underlying thing can be. So unfortunately, things mask the depression. So as I said, you could be angry, and for good reason. In the same way, when you use drugs and alcohol, that could also be it's just making it at bay. It will rear its head. The depression will, once you've sobered up or you come round, the depression will still be there. So it's good if you can. I mean, I think kind of said, try and sort of limit alcohol and drugs intake. But yeah, that is probably something to also to consider. What you limit, and also I think just another thing of why we might not be able to, and I said before, to recognise when we're depressed is because we very much, I think, when we put other people's needs ahead of our own, you kind of probably usually, or more often than not. So I think it's only when crisis happen that suddenly we're kind of forced into looking at our needs and saying, this is what I need for me. But as I said, it will take a bit of time, because if you're not used to doing that and you're used to looking after everybody else in the family, then this will take a bit of getting used to. But it is possible. Okay, I was going to say some of the we will send you a page with resources. I was just going to cover off a couple of other things. Just bear with me. Okay, so I mean, and if you're interested in this, I mean, I would say, obviously, I was saying about eating a healthy diet and is very important, and I've said limiting your caffeine, but also consuming, probiotic food, fermented food, that can also help with your diet. I mean, and just as an example, I don't actually, sorry, this isn't another presentation, but some of the prebiotic foods, some of you may already have this in your diet, but just some of them, so that are apples, asparagus, chicory root, cold potatoes, not hot ones, fennel, garlic, and Jerusalem artichokes. So hopefully there will be a couple of things there. Some of the probiotic, and I will include this in the handouts for you, are things like kefir, and I don't know whether any of you have seen it. I mean, they've emerged in the last, I think, couple of years. You'll find it next to the milk, in the milk aisle, and it's normally a white bottle, and it's spelled Kefir, kefir, and that's fermented milk. It's very good for your gut, as is Roquefort cheese, fermented life miso, and fermented tempeh. So all of these, you've got as I said, you've got the probiotic, and then you've got the prebiotic, which is very good for the gut. So other prebiotic foods include like leeks, onions, pak choi, and pulses. I think we've covered. Okay, so we've said, as I said, try meditation, try yoga, try Pilates. It might work for you. As I said, there are plenty of videos out there on YouTube, other platforms that are providing ways for you to just kind of like get the, you know, get what you need. Basically, you try natural ways of reducing anxiety. We've covered meditation and mindfulness. So I haven't spoken about this, but this could also be a reason for depression, which is post-traumatic stress symptoms. So, and for most of you experience domestic violence. So it's in short, it's PTS, as it's referred to. It's just a reaction to experience outside of the range of normal, and it is normally associated with women who have been abused. And it's probably, as I said, and it's the feelings are more like of the abuse. It's how it feels like if you've been like to war, and that is so you may have, you know, the flashbacks. They may come as nightmares or night terrors, and that's when you'll know whether you are suffering with PTSD. And that's, I think that they're quite hard, especially if you have the flashbacks. They are harder to deal with because you never know when it's going to end. Basically, at least whatever you've experienced, you know, what you may have experienced an incident and it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whereas when you're having flashbacks, they could go on for a long time. You don't know how long they're going to go on for. And it is kind of, I think these feelings, the PTS symptoms, they are similar to the depressed feelings. So it is feelings of hopelessness and a loss of self-esteem, and you feel numb in your body. You might also experience memory loss, and equally anxiety attacks, which is, yeah, I mean, they can be, as I say, panic attacks, and that's a shortness of breath. But once again, if you were to learn more through meditation or through mindfulness, that you would have an understanding about how you use your breath and how you could use your breath in calming down those panic attacks, just using your breath. And you also, PTSD symptoms is also that you might have frequent illnesses, and I'm not going to say which, because I'm sure that there's a whole range of things, but it's just more that that it's just the frequency of it, and that's the association. And it is important, as I said, to understand what these stress symptoms are, so that you can say, you know, I'm not crazy, like, and that is often how women feel when, you know, they've been in abusive relationships. Is it me? They start questioning themselves. Is it me? So, as I said, that's why understanding more about ourselves can definitely, it gives us that insight. So I would say, just try something out. Try mindfulness out. Just because you can just release, and it can make you feel calm. And I guess there's just 3 steps of just not, so you don't feel that, you know, feeling these feelings of loneliness or isolation. It's just being open your attention to the present moment where you are, to ground you, to bring you back to where you are. Just, you know, you could do that very simply, like you could do it here, sitting in your chair now, of just reminding yourself, it's Wednesday the 9th of September, I'm here, I'm on this webinar, I am safe, you know, I'm safe. I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on, I can feel my bottom on the seat, I can feel my feet on the floor or on the bed, or, you know, whatever. But it's just, that is what, it's just bringing your attention to the present moment. And then you can allow yourself to come back to focus in on your breath. And then the next thing, the final thing to do is just bringing attention to your body. So a good way would just be, if you were, you know, at the start of the day or the end of the day, just starting at the top of your head and just guiding your breath, just doing a scan of your body like you would do if you went through the airport and they were scanning your body. Yeah, they probably wouldn't do your head, but you know, they would. But you can just visualize just scanning your whole body and just recognizing, paying attention to your body, where you feel certain twinges and pains. Just acknowledge that. So they're just 3 very simple steps that you can use to become calm. I think, and the slide's not up here, but I'll just reiterate it again. So just a reminder that your thoughts, your feelings, your behavior, physically and spiritually, are affected if you're feeling depressed. Okay, so here's some of the resources. I will send you some other resources, some of them that I've mentioned, but here are just some resources that you can access, or organisations that you can contact. As I said, Mind, a very useful organisation, and they offer a range of services. Samaritans, as I said, if you ever had thoughts of suicide or of self-harming, there's somebody that you can, you know, talk to. I think that they're there 24 hours a day for you to contact somebody. Same Line has been around for a very long time, yeah, I think people go to different services, but I said only depending on your area where you live, then you can get access to Sane Line. The Mix, I understand that this is it's a free information and support, but this is for anybody who's under 25, and you can get advice about sex, relationships, drugs, and mental health. I've put Childline on there because I think for any of you who do have children, you may find that you know, they might be affected by some of your experiences of what have been going on in the home, where there could have been abuse going on. So I think it's always good to, as well as getting help and support for yourself, but also being aware of the support there for children, if you have them and if that's relevant. I'm aware of the time. I kind of did catch up, and I think I said that yes, there will be a handout after today's session, which I will work with Women's Trust to just produce that for you guys and just give you as many of the resources as possible for you to you know, to take a look at. As I said, kind of want to thank you guys because kind of made it through. It's always nerve-wracking when you do something new, and as they say, feel the fear and do it anyway. But thank you for bearing with me.